Hi guys, welcome to the live stream. We're almost ready to start. Dan, Scotty. So the crazy thing about today's live stream is that I'm not going to sell anything. There's nothing to buy. So if you guys are only here to buy stuff, then come along to the one at 6:15 tomorrow, and there's a whole load of stuff to buy. But today, this is a great chance to learn a little bit. Does it sound a bit better now, or is that still pretty distant? It's a kind of one of these big mics. I'll try and speak right into the mic, and then maybe it'll sound a bit better. Thanks very much. So for those of you who have no idea who I am whatsoever, I've been an NGC authorized dealer for the last quite a few years. And I specialize, before I started selling anything, I specialized in grading submissions. And so far, I've submitted coins for almost 1,000 people and helped them get the best possible outcome and the best possible grades. And I spend a whole load of my time answering questions on everything about grading. So I thought that I'd run a session today just to show you guys a little bit about grading and then open it out to questions so that anything you want to know or you might want to know about grading, you know, if it's the grading tiers, what types of coin to grade, does grading add value? What should you grade? What shouldn't you grade? There's a million questions. And the NGC system is quite complicated. So there's lots and lots of different tiers, lots of different options, lots of different labels. And so I thought it might be a nice idea to not sell anything for a whole session, but just tell you everything that you want to know about grading. So we got a nice large group of people here. Hopefully more people will join. So where do we start? So the best place to start is what is a graded coin? What is grading? You know, if you're not, if you haven't graded yourself or you haven't bought graded coins, you've often opened up these live streams and seen all of these different kind of slabs of coins sitting there and wondered, well, what are they? So let's cover some of the basics first. So all of these coins here in this type of slab are graded by a company called NGC. They're part of the Certified Collectibles Group, and they not only grade coins, they grade comics, paper money, Pokemon cards, all kinds of things. And they're based in the States in Florida. And they have one competitor in this kind of world market. And I brought along a slab so you can see the difference. So their big competitor is a company that's based over in California called PCGS. So PCGS stands for Professional Grading Company, and they've been around a long time. Both of these together, they probably graded 100 million coins between them. It's a trend that started over in America. It was very, very slow to take off in the UK, because in the UK, a lot of coin collectors love the idea of taking their old coins and putting them in traditional cabinets and fondling them or doing whatever they do with them in private. And so it took quite a long time for grading to take off. One of the great things about grading, you can see that every one of these slabs has a number. So on each slab, you'll find a number which will go between 1 and 70. There is immense competition to get the coveted 70 grade, and there's quite a lot of competition to get a coveted 1. I'm auctioning tomorrow at 6:15 a whole load of stuff, and in fact, this lot here is actually being sold at 6:15 tomorrow. But today we're going to learn a little bit, because knowledge is power. Knowledge is everything, and the knowledge about grading will help you guys understand what's great, what's a duffer, sort the wheat from the chaff, and what's going to make you money and what's going to lose you money. And that is the most important thing when you're on these whatnot groups and you're buying things. You know, is there any extra money to be made from grading? Thanks a lot, Andrew. I appreciate that. So, there's different groups of numbers which are important. So you get old coins, and old coins quite often go right from 1 up to about, mid 60s. You very rarely get old coins which are higher in quality than mid 60s. If you do, they tend to be monstrously expensive. There can be a geometrical progression in value between the grades 60 and 68. Every 1 point in number that you get on many coins can add hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to the value of the coins. So if you take a coin that has an average value and you have a good eye for coins and you think, well, that looks like a pretty good one, and you have it graded, then if you can get 1 grade higher than average, you're going to make money when you sell it. And a lot of people are integrating in order to make money. So what do we have? There's lots of information on a label. So you can see this one has got the date, 1877. It's got the country, G Britain, Great Britain. And it's got a little bit after that, which can be different depending on the coin. So I'll show you a couple of those. So this one's got 1/2 sov, half a sovereign. So this is a 4 grams of gold, pretty much, half a sovereign. There may be other things you see. So for example, if you take a look at this silver coin, this is in a thick slab. It's a modern coin, it's 70 grade, but if you look at that, you can see that you've got an S before the denomination. So when you're looking at these coins, say you're looking at Kew Gardens 50p pieces. If it says 50p, then it's made of copper and nickel. If it says S 50p, it's made of silver. So when you're buying these things, it's quite important to look at what that denomination says and see whether it's made of silver or gold or platinum. For example, if you see this one, this is on sale tomorrow. This is a platinum Britannia coin, and it's got PT for platinum, pounds, which is because it's British in pounds value, 25 because that's the legal tender value of it, 25 British pounds made in platinum. So every one of these slabs has got things that give away what they're about. Let's take a look at some other types of slabs. So not all slabs are kind of real. Some of them are samples. Some of them are given away in contests. This is one that I won at the NGC Fun Grading Competition over in Florida in 2019. So if you participated, they gave you one of these $50. If you won it, they gave you a whole other kind of thing, and a much nicer coin if you won it. But I wasn't that great at grading, so I didn't win that competition. Another example, this kind of thing. This one is an NGC Instagram giveaway coin. So they've made a slab which has got this kind of fun graphical covering on. It's got an American eagle inside. What does the S mean? Is this a copper and nickel eagle or a silver eagle? It's got an S, so this is a silver eagle, 1 ounce of silver. Excellent. So anyone who went away for their Instagram giveaway and won, was drawn out of a hat, got one of these coins. There's a lot of people in America who collect just these sample slabs. They have a whole book and catalogue in their own right, and people try and get whole collections of sample slabs. So let's take a look at some other kind of things. So let's have a look at age, and not my age, but age of graded coins. Okay, so let's take a look at, okay, what's the difference between, find one, yeah. So you'll see slabs that have the writing going in the middle, and you'll see slabs that have the writing, thanks Andrew, the writing on the left-hand side. Okay, so in 2014, NGC changed all of their labels. So any slabs you see like this were slabbed before 2014. Any slabs you see like this were slabbed after 2014. And then if you look on these slabs, you'll see the logo here is very thin, and that's been changed this year. If I can find one, I may not be able to find one here, but you'll now see a much kind of fatter logo on these coins. And you'll be able to look at that and see whether this was slabbed recently or whether it was an old one. Similarly, if it was slabbed a fair time ago, there's no holograms on the back of the coins. There isn't a QR code on the back. If it just came back a very short while ago, yeah, like that one, you'll see a different design on the back, which has the QR code, so you know that one has been slabbed more recently than the other two. So what else can we tell from one of these slabs? Okay, so there's lots of different things called tiers. So, and the tiers can either be when you get a lousy grade and you spend all day crying because you wasted all the money on grading and you've got nothing back for your efforts because you picked a duffer coin on eBay and were persuaded that it was a really good one, whereas it had probably been in and out of a slab 20 times already, but that's a whole other kind of thing. So there's two main tiers. There's ancient and world. So if you've got a coin like this one is a Roman Empire coin, then this one is an ancient coin. The cut-off date is around about 1,000 years ago. Not sure what I mean by that. What did I say? Well, in and out of... Yeah, because a lot of the stuff you buy on eBay that is raw has already been slabbed by some poor sucker, bought again, taken out the slab, resubmitted. When you buy it, you'll resubmit it. NGC make a small fortune on taking coins in and out of slabs that have been in them 25 times. Never buy a raw coin unless you really know what you're doing. So, ancient coins. Say, for example, you've got like, I don't know, a Canute penny. That is not an ancient coin. It won't go in an ancient slab. It'll go in a regular slab. If you've got something which is much earlier, like this one is 308 AD, if you've got one of these kind of things, it will go in an ancient slab. And ancient slabs have these snazzy ancient labels on. You'll get this label free of charge on every ancient coin. Some labels are free, some labels are paid for, and we can talk about labels in a minute. So this one has CHF, which means it's a choice fine grade coin. Now, you'll see some coins which have two values, one for strike and what was the other thing? But they've got two values out of 5. And if you send this coin in and you pay about £30 to have it graded, it'll come with this label. If the coin, and the coin can be worth up to £250. If you've got a coin which is worth more than £250 and less than £2,500, then it will have a different label with more information on, and you'll pay about £50, £55 for the privilege. So as the value of the coin goes up, the pricing goes up as well. And we'll talk about pricing and tiers in a moment. So at the bottom end of the tier, most of you guys are interested in modern coins. So if you take your average modern coin, so a modern coin is defined as any coin minted after 1965. So if it's after 1965 and it's worth less than £2,000, it's a modern coin. NGC also have a tier called gold. This is a gold coin, but its modern bit takes precedence over its gold bit. So you can have a gold coin. For example, this gold coin on the left is an old gold coin. That would be sent for grading in what's called the gold tier. The one on the right is a gold coin, but it will be sent in the modern tier. A lot of people who are new to grading, they look at the form, they say, oh, it's gold. Let's tick the box for gold. But this one will cost £17. The gold one will cost £38. So it's possible to spend a hell of a lot of money unnecessarily by not understanding the tiers. Ultra cameo, great question. So ultra cameo means how reflective is it? So you'll only get ultra cameo on proof coins. So a proof coin is a coin that's been struck specially multiple times to proof standard. So it's not a type of coin, it's a way of producing coins. And you'll see proof coins, they'll either have nothing like that, just PF70, or they'll have PF70 with a cameo only, or they'll say ultra cameo. The ones you want to look for are the ones that say ultra cameo. And ultra cameo means on one side of it, it's very reflective, and on the other side, it's also very reflective. If you have a coin that only says cameo, chances are it's reflective on one side, but not really very reflective on the other side. It can be almost no cameo. The cameo is the difference between the thing that's raised up, like the portrait of the monarch, Queen Elizabeth here, she's all frosted, and the reflectivity of the back. And mints have got a lot better at producing cameo over the last 25, 30 years. Years ago, only the first few they ever struck were cameo or ultra cameo. So they can be very, very much more expensive and desirable in cameo or ultra cameo. So what else have we got to show you? Yeah, different types of labels. So the standard, bog standard label, no extra costs, is the brown label. So if you don't choose an option, you'll get a brown label when you send it in for grading. Now, sometimes you'll be sending a coin in almost just after it's been minted. So it'll arrive brand new, straight from the mint. And if it's within the first 30 days, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but if it is with error stamped slabs do go for more money, and errors actually will cost you £18 extra on the grading fee as well. So if your coin has an error, they can be quite expensive to grade, and they'll be worth more money as well when you sell them. So so what I was saying is that if you send it to NGC within the first 30 days, you can ask for this blue label, which says first releases. It's pretty meaningless. It's a bit of a marketing gimmick, but people who buy coins in a secondary market, they often really like to buy first releases coins. So other things being equal, you'll probably find a first releases coin will sell much more easily than a brown label coin. But it doesn't always work out that way because, NGC will only give you 30 days from when they first see one of these coins. And some of the dealers who buy these coins in bulk put them in early. So, for example, everyone has been buying over the last few weeks the new sovereign coin for 2026. And that should have had a deadline of the 12th of December. Its actual deadline is the 1st of December because the big dealers put them in 2 weeks early. So you've got to really watch out. If you want to get these blue labels, they're quite difficult to get sometimes, and they are highly coveted. Then you've got a whole load of other different types of labels. So let's look at some of those. So if your coin has a royal theme, I grade for NGC. I'm an official NGC dealer, and I have been for many years. I do sometimes send coins to PCGS in California, but it's only on special occasions, really. Mostly it's NGC. So, so this coin has got a royal celebration label because the theme of the coin is the Queen's beasts. If it didn't have a royal theme, then it couldn't have this label. This label is only for things like that. Similarly, this is a label that was created by one of the dealers in America, and that's only available for coins which have a panda theme. This one over here, only on Mexican coins. And a lot of people who grade with me, they actually even buy coins just to try and get all the labels. So they'll buy an Australian coin, a Canadian coin, an Indian, whatever they're buying, only to be able to collect a set of labels. Anax is interesting. Anax used to be owned by the American Numismatic Association, but it's never really achieved the same desirability, and their grading standards aren't nearly as good. So if you're looking for coins that you want to add value to on eBay, for example, it's worth looking out for annex slabs, because they can easily be re-slabbed quite often into NGC and have a higher value after re-slabbing. There is an argument about PCGS slabs and whether PCGS slabs can be worth more than NGC slabs. It's possible on some particular types of coins, PCGS can get a slightly higher price. That certainly doesn't apply on 98% of coins, but there are occasions where that will actually be the case. Depends on what the collectors go for. So yeah, let's have a look at another type of thing that you can get. So this slab, I don't hope you can see it easily. So this is a shipwreck coin. So this was put into NGC in the gold tier, and there's something called pedigree or provenance. Okay, what does that mean? So if the coin has come from somebody's special collection, that's a pedigree. It may have a famous history, that's a pedigree. If it was sold in a famous sale, that can be a provenance. So this one has a provenance of the Douro treasure. Douro is a mail ship that went down probably a few years after this coin was minted in the 1870s. I can't remember the exact date. And one of the labels that NGC has is this blue shipwreck label. And I always, when I see shipwreck coins, I always get them with this label, which is the nicest label to have. The other thing that you're probably looking at this thing and you say, well, that's a big slab. With NGC, any coin which is too wide to fit in a regular holder, so this one is about 5 millimeters too wide. Any coin which is too wide is graded in an XXL slab. No, you need evidence. They won't give you the shipwreck designation unless you prove from some reliable source that that particular coin was part of a shipwreck hoard or a shipwreck sale. You have to prove it. If you don't prove it, they won't put the ship on and they won't give you the label. So any coin which is usually a little bit wider, and this one's a 2-ounce silver coin, but it's wider than a normal 2-ounce silver coin, will go in this holder. NGC charge about £20 or more extra to put one of these holders, coin in one of these holders. So make sure you are aware when you grade larger coins, you will get charged extra for one of these big monsters, and you will need a bigger box like this at the back to keep them. The large slab reholders are not as expensive as you might think. I think it's about £22 to slab a large coin again, and about £11 to £14 to slab a small one again. If it's too big for one of those, and there are a few coins that are too big for one of these, this will even, if you see the width on this, they make them with 3 different widths, so you can get a 1 kilogram silver coin in this holder. There are some coins that are literally 2 kilograms or 5 kilograms, and they make a thing called a mega holder. I think it's about 150 quid for the holder, but if your coin is so big, it's also likely to be valuable, and you can actually get a giant holder. But if you have a coin like that, they have to give their express written permission first before it goes in the holder, because there are so few coins like that, and they want to make sure it works okay. So what else would you guys like to know about grading? I think it's time for me to answer some questions so you get out of this session what you really want. Is it worth doing? Now that's interesting. People seem to have a whole load of different motivations. Some people will say, I'd like to protect this coin, pass it on to my kids, pass it on to my grandkids. And other people will say, I'm only going to do this if it might add value. If you take a modern coin, straight out the mint, 85% of them will get a 70, unless it's been handled or scratched or ruined in some way. So to tell if it's good enough for grading, you have to make sure that no one has handled it or touched it, particularly if it's a proof coin. If they have handled it, it might still be fine for grading because there is a conservation service that will take off fingerprints. The key thing is there's no physical damage, no scratches at all. What's not true? Charlie, what's not true? Expand on that. Yeah, I mean, if you a lot of older proofs have people have taken them out of the capsules and you have handled them. I mean, I get hundreds of those modern proofs in, and if they're fairly recent, they often are absolutely fine. But ones that have been around since the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, someone has had the temptation to open them and handle them, and a lot of those need to be conserved. Yeah, hammered coins are different. We're talking about proof coins, not older coins. Now, hammered coins are generally fine unless they've been cleaned or messed with. And if they've been cleaned at any time, they will get a details grade, which I haven't really explained yet, rather than a straight grade. So that leads us on to another interesting subject. I don't think I bought a details grade coin, but what you're aiming for is to get a number on the coin. Sometimes a coin will come back and it won't get a number. It'll say proof details or AU details or uncirculated details, and it could then say cleaned or damaged or environmental damage or scratched or altered surface. There's literally 20 different bad things that could happen to a coin that would stop you from getting a generic grade. That's one of the reasons why coins with grades add value, because it's so easy, particularly on older coins, to get to not be able to get a numeric grade. So the ones that do immediately have a value uplift. So if you think you are good at spotting good coins, grading is going to make you a lot of money. Mechanical cleaning absolutely does. Dipped cleaning doesn't necessarily mean it'll get a details grade. There's thousands of dipped coins that have proper grades. It really depends on whether they find anything else or whether they feel good that day. Grading is a very subjective thing. The process that should happen is that when it goes in for grading, 3 different people will look at the coin and make a grade, and then there's a supervisor called a finalizer, and he will then take a look at the grades that have been assigned by the other 3 people, and he will then give a finished grade. He may or may not agree, or he may say, fine, yeah, you've all got the same grade. But it's a human thing. It's very subjective. Grading takes about 2.5 months from beginning to end, and it's all done in America. Charlie, they say that there's a group of 3 for everything. I don't see what goes on behind closed doors, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if on modern coins there were not 3 people, but on rare or expensive coins, I'm absolutely sure there is. AI, I use AI all the time to value coins. AI is amazing. If you haven't used Gemini to value coins, try it. Take a picture of the coin, show it to Gemini, and ask for a valuation in pounds. It's brilliant. Best place for a retail collector to sell on a coin bought from the Royal Mint and then graded. The best places, if they're popular, these coins, are going to be Facebook groups. So there are a ton of groups. There are a ton of good ones. There are a ton of bad ones. I run a Facebook group. If you ever look up Numistacker on Facebook groups, you can join my group, and I have hundreds of coins being sold all the time. It's a good way of selling a coin if it's a popular coin, because there are often no payment charges and no other charges. It's the cheapest possible way of getting the best price. If you've got something more specialized, that might need to go to auction or even to a world market. Adam, thank you very much for that. We've got 3,600 people on our group, and it's one of the most carefully moderated groups for selling that you can find on the web. If a modern coin doesn't get a PF70 grade and it gets a 69 grade, it will be probably worth the same as an ungraded example. And it may actually not sell as easily because people like buying ungraded examples so they can grade them themselves. The app for what? The group. So if you look on Facebook under groups and do a find for Numistacker. So there's also one called Bullion, which is run by a friend of mine, which is very, very good as well. Now, and one of the nice things about the groups is you can buy at a very good price things like bullion, because whether you make money on it often depends on how you bought it, not how you sell it. Can milk spotted silver coins still get a grade 70? You do see 70 grade milk spotted coins, but usually that's because they've developed the milk spots after they've been graded. If you send a coin in with milk spots, they can get 69, but I don't think they're likely to get 70. So generally, don't grade milk spotted coins if you can possibly help it. But silver is, it will milk spot, and you won't be able to control that. That's one of the reasons I prefer gold to silver. Yeah, Matthew, absolutely. I mean, we've all got, this one has been in a slab since 2014. It was graded when it was new. I can't see any milk spots. They won't develop on all of them. No one really knows why they're formed, but I always think it's something to do with the last chemical wash and whether everything got washed properly and then there's a later chemical reaction or something. Can copper spotted coins get a 70? I think copper spotted coins can get a 70, but they are unlikely to. And what I always do with copper spotted coins is conserve them, because copper spots on gold are totally conservable, and they look so much better. I don't know whether this one. So that's a good example. That's a 2008 quarter-ounce Libertad in 68. Not the best grade, but there's almost no 70s in that particular coin. Still a valuable coin. That when I bought it, the whole set was copper spotted all over the place. This was conserved by NCS. NCS charge around about £13 or so to conserve a modern coin, so it's incredible value, and they will conserve it and then grade it afterwards after it's been conserved. Yeah, Gemini, sorry, for the AI app. There's ChatGPT and Gemini. I think Gemini can be a little bit better for coins. The explanations it gives can be a little bit better. So copper spots, send them for grading if they've got copper spots. But one thing that's always worth mentioning is that if you see a copper spotted gold coin on eBay, 8 out of 10 people will stay away from it because they think it's damaged. The clever people buy it at a slightly cheaper price and grade it. So remember, I told you that. There is a big difference in the quality of the mint output. Perth Mint have a reputation for being amazing and very, very high quality, with mostly 70s. Germania Mint get almost all 70s. Their quality standards are very high. Royal Mint is good on some things and bad on others. So silver 2-ounce coins are a particular Royal Mint weak spot. A lot of them get 69, 68 or even 67. Gold sovereigns, particularly proof sovereigns from the Royal Mint, do very well, and they get 90% or more will get 70. So it depends on exactly what coin, but some mints are better than the others. Think about this for a second. If you take 100 coins and 99 get a 70 and 1 gets a 69, what does that do to the value of the 70s? Answer: they're worth nothing. because they're not rare. If you take a bad mint, where they do 10 70s and 90 69s, the 70s that you do get can be worth thousands of pounds. For example, the Una and the Lion in 2019. $2,000 or so roughly for a 69, and at one point it was $7,000 or $8,000 for a 70. Do premiums on coins remain constant even as the gold price changes? That is a whole. I've got a video, 20-minute video out just on that subject. But the idea is that or any coin premiums will reduce with every dollar the gold price goes up. It's a variable effect, but with a high gold price at the moment, 70 grade NGC graded coins are a total bargain because their premiums have probably halved or even a third of what they were when the gold price was lower. So ultimately, there are people on groups at the moment who are happy to take a price related to the gold price because they're making money anyway, but they're giving you a 70 grade coin, which at some stage will be worth a higher premium and will maybe be less risky for you. So go after the 70 coins as opposed to the raw coins. How do you find out which coins are only available by phone from the Royal Mint? Haha, you can't. It's so difficult. The Royal Mint are absolutely terrible because they will really not tell anybody in advance what they're doing. You know that they can't quite often produce coins at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, so a lot of people go in. There was recently a release of a bar, the Loci Germania Mint Antiqued Bar. They produced 100 in 10 ounce and I think 500, or was it 500? Maybe 500 1 ounce. And they sold out almost immediately, but nobody knew they were even being launched. And by telephone, you stand some chance of begging, but there's always lots of things that are not on the Royal Mint website. The reverse proof sovereigns that have just been released were not on the Royal Mint website, and they were only available to people who phoned in and knew what they were asking, or to their Mint Mark customers who are their special high rollers. Yeah, 69 half sovereigns, barely over spot. I mean, it's a good deal. It's a good deal. Buying graded coins at the moment is a really good deal. Which sovereign are you meaning tomorrow? I didn't know there was one being coming out tomorrow. Arbet, can you tell us more about that? What sovereign's coming out tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, there is if any of you are interested, there is a sovereign that's interesting, but it's £1,300 on the Royal Mint website. They don't advertise it. You'll find it hidden away if it hasn't already sold out. And that is the Victoria Anniversary Sovereign Strike on the Day celebration. Only 500 of those being minted compared to thousands of the regular ones. You can find it under the Victoria part of the Royal Mint shop. I mean, the Royal Mint have a very complicated distribution through dealers, distributors, telephone sales, Mint Mark. You know, I mean, the more you pay attention and focus on the news that comes out the groups, the more you'll know. Most of the news you'll get on the Numistacker group, on the Bullion group, on the Gold Sovereign group. So, you know, if you're looking at that news all the time, you'll pick up the things that are likely to be popular. You know, what makes the difference between a coin that is going to add value or a coin that is an also ran? You know, for example, two beautiful coins, both graded 70. The one on the left has a value of about £250, £260. The one on the right has a value of £500. They're both the same width, same weight, produced in a similar year, I think both 2021, both proof. What makes this one so much more valuable? The answer really lies in the story behind it. When the Queen's Beasts came out, everybody decided they loved the idea of the Queen's Beasts. When the completer coin came out, I think this may have been one that wasn't really readily available because it was the 2-ounce version of it was done in collaboration with a dealer in Australia, in Hong Kong, I think. It was with LPM in Hong Kong. So the Mint didn't have very many of these to sell. They were really hard to get hold of, but everybody loves a completer. So if one of these comes up for sale, this could sell for up to 700 quid quite easily. But this one will probably only ever get 275 because it's a Britannia, and Britannias aren't valued as highly as the Queen's Beasts because their story is less compelling. Where do you get a good story or a bad story developing? Places like the Silver Forum, places like the Numistacker group, all of these people, anywhere where collectors talk to each other, they are exchanging information, and people who are recognized as being respected in those groups will say, yeah, I really like the design of that, or I don't really like the design of that very much. It might be the new music legends or something like that. And sentiment follows and price follows sentiment. So if you don't pick up on all of that intent, then you can easily make a mistake and not buy the right coins. So that's a lot from me. Been about 40 minutes so far. If there are any more questions, I'm happy to answer them. There's no way to remove milk spots. Milk spots are inside the coin, and it's one of those things where NGC, with all their best conservators, can't actually get rid of haze or milk spots in silver because it basically makes it's part of the metal. It's not on top of the metal. I would suggest a new collector, very, very new, starts off with bullion coins because it's much less easy to make mistakes. Start off with bullion sovereigns, start off with bars. I know a lot of you guys on Whatnot, the most favourite thing on Whatnot is silver bars. Tons of silver bars get sold on Whatnot. And ultimately, I think that when you progress from that and you're willing to pay more money for more premium, go for things that are safe. What is safe? Libertads are one of the safest things in the world, particularly if you're in America or Mexico. There is a massive worldwide shortage of Libertads, but in England, not that many people collect them. I'll tell you the story about my labels in a minute because I've designed some really interesting labels. And the other thing is sovereigns. So sovereigns are a massive worldwide market. I know they're not quite a quarter of an ounce. Maybe it's difficult to work out their value sometimes, but make your first items gold and make your first items sovereigns. Silver is a much more risky thing if you don't know what you're doing than gold. Older coins, I'll give you one bit of advice on that. Don't buy rubbish, even if it's cheap. Make sure that every single thing you buy, for example, I haven't got any older, oh, maybe I have this. Okay, so this isn't a particularly good grade because a lot of shipwreck coins are not very good grade. So non-shipwreck coins are much higher grade. But when you look at a Victorian sovereign, if you see the little curl just below her hairline, buy it. If you don't see the little curl or it's rubbed off, it's a much lower grade, and because that's the high point of the coin. So look at that. If you ever see one that's got a really good curl and it's a good price, that one is a good one to collect. So reliably value graded coins. I don't know in my head the value of every single coin. Catalogues can be very difficult to use because they're not published very often. However, AI makes life very, very easy because it will value a coin within a band and it will give you a reason for that valuation. It'll look at auctions that are visible all over the world. It can give you, a dollar value or a pound value. So when I start to try and get a value together, if I want to put something on the market, and I did that with all of these. All these coins are being sold tomorrow at 6:15. So I went on to AI and I checked the value of every single one of these coins to be able to set the start auction prices at quite a chunk less than the value I knew the coins were. So, and that's how I do it, but everyone's got their own different way of doing it. And, what works for me may not work for you. So the Libertad is a great, interesting thing. They've been producing these things since 2004, every year. They produce the same design, the Winged Liberty. It's one of the most beautiful gold coins in the whole world. And it's produced by a mint that sometimes makes 500 of them, sometimes 3,000, sometimes 250 only. You never quite know. So the trick with Libertads is to buy key years or semi-key years. A 2020 quarter-ounce gold coin, one sold recently for over £3,000 for a quarter ounce of gold because they only made 250 of them. Thanks, Sasboy. I think that's a compliment anyway. I think an audiobook sounds, provided you don't fall asleep or something like that, it might be okay. My preference is always for Melbourne sovereigns between those two. If you've ever been to Melbourne, you know what a beautiful city it is. But Melbourne Mint, look for coins which are in the 1880s in Melbourne and look for shields as opposed to St. George coins. What's that? Yeah, that's a shield. So look for ones with the shield on the back as opposed to the St. George, because they have a mintage which is both types together. But the story is that they produced a very small number of these coins in Melbourne for trade in India, and the Indians didn't like the killing of the dragon, and so they love to have the shields instead. But nobody knows how many shields there are, and all 1880s Melbournes are very, very rare. Which eagle? This eagle. This one is a special one, so none of these are for sale, but this one I won in a competition, so it's kind of got sentimental value, this one. Any more questions, you guys? SP grade. Oh, okay, SP grades are interesting. You tend to see American and Canadian coins with, instead of PF for proof, you'll see SP for specimen. And I'm always having arguments with NGC about what is a specimen and what isn't. They basically make an arbitrary decision, and if they decide to call something a specimen, it sticks with it. If they don't decide to do it, no other coin will ever be called a specimen. So 2016 specimen gold coins, there were 3 coins produced in 2016, all specimens, but it happens very rarely, and there's nothing particular about them, which is different from proof. A star is an interesting one. Okay, so you can see here, this one has got a star. The reason it's got a star is not because it is better quality than a 67 grade. It's because it looks really pretty. It's got a very attractive look to it for a coin of this particular grade. Sometimes you'll see a star and a plus sign on a coin. So a star and a plus means it's half a grade higher than the number, and it's also very good looking. And there are people who do nothing but search out these crazy stars and pluses. A star or a plus is worth quite a lot more than a coin without a star or a plus. But sometimes you see a coin which should be a cameo or an ultra cameo, like this one. This should really be cameo. It should be PF67 star cameo, but for some reason they didn't put the cameo on. The 2022 Jubilee Sovereign, the same thing wouldn't apply for for the shields, the same as the old ones. It's the Melbourne coins in particular and some of the old ones where they didn't differentiate how many had a shield. An 1886 shield coin is probably £8,000. An 1887 coin is probably £5,000. A lot of them are very rare coins. Matte finish is an interesting thing. So here's a matte finish coin. So this is a 5 sovereign gold piece. It's got a special label on, which is the Queen Elizabeth Memorial label, which I designed. It is a first releases coin, so it ticks all the boxes, and it doesn't say proof. It doesn't say PF70. It says MS70 for matte. It's what's called a brilliant uncirculated strike. So it's something in the middle of a bullion strike and a proof strike. It's a quality which is right in the middle of those two different types of strikes. There are coins that look very similar to this that are PF70 matte, because you can also have those. There are some special ones they produce with a micro beaded finish, which they're very expensive. I don't know which one's better. It's really based on the mintage. There's about 350 of these, I think, maybe, that were minted. So the matte ones are usually rarer than the proof ones, but maybe not worth a lot more than the proof, because people love proof coins. Do you sell coins or grade them? I grade for hundreds of people, and I sell coins every now and again on live streams and just for fun. But most of my business is I do grading for people. So people submit their coins to me via a form which is on the Numistacker.com website, and I take them in, I consolidate all the different submissions. They all go to NGC once every month, and then 2 or 3 months later they all come back, and I send them all out on DHL Express, and you get your graded coins back. I do that for coins, I do that for paper money, for PMG notes, I do it for comics and Pokemon cards as well, so every collectible, and that's 90% of what I do. Thanks very much. I've been doing this quite a few years, and it's quite a minefield, and I spend most of my time helping guide people through the minefield and pick up some nice coins along the way. So I hope you enjoyed today's live stream. A bit different from the average live stream. Tomorrow I'm doing a sales live stream, and all of these coins will be sold. There's a very, very rare Libertad which is being sold tomorrow. That's got a make offers price. It's the only one with a make offers price, but it's got £3,200. There's a Platinum Britannia, which is really nice. Platinum Britannia. Sorry, my mic was about. Can you hear me now? Platinum Britannia, which is pretty good. There's a special. There's 3 special strike on the day sovereigns. There's one to celebrate VJ Day, one to celebrate VJ Day, 200th anniversary of Victoria's birth, and there's one to celebrate Albert's birth as well. So there's lots of stuff that is available if you want to buy a coin that's from me, graded. There's also which is pretty cool, which is a 11 coin Queen's Beast bullion set. So that's around about £1,400, something like that. Can't lend you any money, but I can certainly wrap it up and put it in an envelope and it'll arrive safely at its destination once you pay whatnot for the privilege of having one of these things. So I hope some of you will join me tomorrow. Yeah, and the 3rd of an ounce Britannia. That's kind of interesting. Pull that out. Yeah, this is, I think, the first coin the Royal Mint have ever made in 1/3 of an ounce. So they made 500 of these only, and they sold out at the Mint very, very quickly. And I designed this label as well. So I've got a special label for Britannias, a special label for sovereigns, for royal coins, all this kind of stuff. So it's one of the reasons it's pretty cool to grade via Numistacker. Thanks very much. What else can I show you? Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is a strike on the day sovereign, but it doesn't have it on the label because it looks kind of the same as a regular 2013, but this was struck to celebrate royal birth in 2013. Just hasn't got it on the label. So I hope some of you are going to join me tomorrow. And, if there are any other questions, I'm happy to hang around for any cheap. Okay, Matthew, the cheaper coins are on the 4th of December. So there's a regular auction, all the cheaper coins, silver bullion, all this kind of stuff. Strike on the day, the early ones tended to get not great grades, but the later ones tend to get 70s. Before 2017, this is for JH, before 2017, there was nothing to really distinguish the strike on the day ones from regular coins. So you not only have to send the COA, you have to ideally send it completely sealed in mint packaging so they know you haven't swapped out the coin. So it's very, very difficult to get the strike on the day bit on the label pre-2017. I've done a few, I've been successful at a few, but it's a battle to do it. So if you see any that are graded that have the before 2017, buy them because they're quite rare. Yeah, it can be a gamble. I mean, sometimes they'll let you do it, sometimes they won't. Sometimes, since I've been doing more grading, they might let me vouch for it. They might let me now say, I'm happy that this one is the right coin, and take my word for it if I give them a copy of the COA. But if you guys send them in not through me, you probably wouldn't stand a chance of getting it. Any last minute questions? 3 error pennies. Yeah, absolutely. Errors, there's a lot of errors around. So they never fetch massive prices unless they are ridiculously rare and crazy errors. But it's always worth having them. Well, I've come across a lot of coins which look like an error, but have been damaged on purpose. So grading them will distinguish between coins that are errors or just look like errors. And that's one of the reasons to have them graded. I've done a few completely blank ones. I think if they're completely blank, definitely have them graded, and they'll be, they'll sell more easily as graded coins with an error designation. Well, I think that's me done. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. It is different from a regular live stream, but Whatnot, I've got such great technology. It's a shame not to use it. I'll see you all in the next one, guys.